good YouTube? It's Adam from I'm Using More. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to go ahead and break down Tyler the Creator's Sticky featuring Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne. Tempo for this one is 80 beats per minute. For the first beat, for the beat switch up, it's 77 beats per minute. And the track is produced by Tyler the Creator. Let's go ahead and start off at the beginning of the track with that whistle. Alright, so that just loops itself for the first beat, or at least most of the first beat. For that sound, we are using Logic's Whistler patch. You can find that under Legacy, Logic, World, European, and under the Whistler. The only thing I adjusted on this sound was two things. One was legato to get some sliding notes happening here. So you see how it kind of slides into each other right here. This overlapping notes, I needed to slide into the next note. So for that, I opened up Logic Sampler. And I just turned on legato and turned up the glide. And the other effect I added on top of this whistler was a little bit of bit crusher just to give it some of that distortion and analog sound. So here is the bit crusher settings. It's pretty much the default setting that loads out. Just gives it some texture and noise. And that whistle sound just goes on for quite a bit. We get some other elements sort of sporadically placed throughout the arrangement. So bear with me, there's a lot to it. First things first is this Vox sample right here. It gets played throughout the entire track. Not at every point in time, but here and there. Like I said, that doesn't play throughout the entire track. It gets placed here and there throughout the arrangement. All the drum sounds that you're about to hear in this remake is from the Chromacopia drum kit put together. Link will be down below if you're interested in the Chromacopia sounds. Hearing on the arrangement, we get a little bit more of those effects blips that Tyler loves to put in his tracks. Like there's always a ton of them in his tracks. A lot of ad-libs from his own vocals and a lot of like these quirky sound effects that he puts into his tracks, just I guess to fill it up. So this is the next one that we got right here. It's like this bubblegum pop thing. All right, so in context, it sounds like this. And then we get this live clap sound at the top of this one. That sound will come back into play later on. And then we get this little sound right over here. It's like a door knocking sound and it kind of carries through. And that's it for the intro and the whistle sound. And then we get into the main drums. So one, we get the 808. There's quite a few 808 patterns in this track. This is one of them, just one note hit. Then we get the clap on the 2s and 4s. And then we get like the standout drum element, in my opinion, the triangle. And that just plays through most of the track. And then we get a stomps. So I broke the stomps down to like 3 different stomps just to get the tone that I needed. So we got this one. We got this one. We got this one. And then we got this sort of offbeat one here. All right, so if we layer all those together, all our stomps, let's put it with our clap as well. And then we got the Tyler the Creator breath vocal samples that he always does in all of his tracks, or many of his tracks. That's just carrying through the beat. And then we got like these quirky sort of effect sounds here. In context, it sounds like this all together. And then we get this bongo sound at the end of this pattern. All right, and then we get this whistle sound. And then we get this crowd chant cheering sound. And that just loops for a bit. Alright, the 808 switches up here. We also get another bongo hit. It's sort of like this rolling bongo thing. And that pattern sort of repeats itself for a couple of bars here until we get to some more elements right over here. All right, let's break down the percussion elements, and then we'll get to the synth sounds. Then we get this one right over here, sort of a, and then we get a shaker sound. All right, so all three of those together on its own. All right, and in context with the drums, let's just go ahead and mute out our synths. And then we got our first synth. Not many synths in here, but this is our first one. For that sound, I'm using an instance of Alchemy using the amped up Epic Synth preset on the string pad performance. Next up, we got this synth that Tyler loves to put into his tracks. It's like these rising synths. Let's just open up the automation to show you what's actually happening. So the note starts off on its root value and it goes up 2 octaves. Now for that oscillator, we are using Logic's ES2 synthesizer, just using a sine wave right over here, nothing else adjusted. And we're using Logic's AU pitch plugin to pull up the pitch. It's the only pitch plugin in Logic that I find does not step the semitones as we go up. It sort of glides into it nicely. So if you're looking for that sliding thing like this right here, use the AU pitch and just automate this pitch knob right over here. All right, and the same thing happens for the next 2 synths. And then we got our last gliding up synth, this one right here. So for that, we're using a different oscillator. We're using a sawtooth right over here in Logic's ES2 synth. And once again, using that AE pitch, they get that nice smooth pitch sliding thing happening. This time we're only automating the pitch knob to go up 1 full octave or 1200 cents. So altogether for that, in context, it sounds like this. All right, first up, let's go ahead and break down that first sample that we get in this track. It's the James Brown Get Off of That Thing sample. So here is the sample session that I loaded up here. You can find that sort of hit sample right over here at the bar 11 mark. I'm back. Get up. So I basically took this sample right here and just played it out in its track. So let's go back to the sticky session and we get this right over here. Except the only thing different here is that you're just playing with the pitch of that sample. And this is what the pattern looks like for its entirety. All right, and then we get a few other percussion elements in here. We get a tambourine. We get another bongo hit here. And everything else is pretty much the same. And then in this section, we get this trumpet hit, and it sounds like this. Let's solo that out. For that trumpet sound, we are using a stock sound in Logic. You can find it under Legacy, Logic, pop horns, and pop trumpets. In order to get that falling type of performance, you need to set the velocity all the way to 127 to get that hard hit. And that's it for that trumpet. Carrying on in the mix. The whistle comes back into play. Instruments. Let's go ahead and just break down some of the percussion elements that's new. And it's really only one thing right here, just the crash to emphasize those hits. All right, then we get those brass elements. So there are a couple different brass elements here, or brass instruments, just because we need different sort of cadences and performances from those instruments. So first is that same trumpet we just listened to. Then we get this trumpet over here. It's giving that shake trumpet performance out of it. For the instrument we're using for that one is Logic's Studio Horns. And if you use Logic Studio Horns, you can actually play different performances from that instrument. So if I go into our MIDI region and select our MIDI, you'll notice we have an articulation right here. So you have a bunch of them to choose from. I chose Shake to get that sort of wobbly sound. Then we get another trumpet instrument. This one is playing the expressive long articulation, and each one just adds to the layers to make it that full sounding brass section. So all together, it sounds like this. I'll add them one by one here. And then just to layer all of those brass instruments, I brought in a string because I felt like that was in there as well. Just playing the same pattern. Kind of adds to it. All together. Then we get that live clap once again here, which will take us into our next section, or the beat switch up, if you will. So this is where the tempo will go from 80 beats per minute to 77 beats per minute. Let's go ahead and break down that brass section. So the brass sample itself is not actually a sample. Tyler Creator, I believe, replayed it, but the actual melody and all that came from Young Buck's Get Buck track. So if we go ahead and listen to it in the original track here, it sounds like this. All right, so he took those sort of brass pattern or melody and he reinterpolated it into his own. It's a little bit more aggressive sounding. So let's go ahead and break it down. We got a bunch of brass elements here. This is our first one here. So for this instrument, I'm using a patch you can find under Legacy, Jam Pack Symphony Orchestra, Horns, Extra Brass Ensemble Staccato. We get this right over here for our next sound. All playing the same pattern. This is the French horn section staccato. Then we got this right over here. That's the tuba staccato, all in the same category. Then we got this right over here. The trombone. I just added a little bit of strings in there just to give a little bit more suspense to it. I feel like that was in the original track as well. To the drums portion of the second track. the same 808, just playing a slightly different pattern. Of course, we bring in a kick. All right, we bring in that snare. That Vox is still in there. That Vox breath. That bongo is still there. Then it goes into like a little bit of a breakdown. Before that, we get this new 808 pattern. And then we get that new trumpet pattern that brings us into the next section. So we're playing this over here. It is the patch, I'll load it up here, the studio horn 6-piece section, the Little Brazil. And it sounds like this on its own. I couldn't quite match the tonality of the original one, so I just brought in this sample over here. Right, I just sampled it directly from the track and I chopped it up in Logic Sampler. And then on the one we get that horn sound again. All right, the same brass sound as before. All right, let's carry on. So for the keyboards over here, we get this. All playing the same chords. So for the first keyboard sound, we get this piano. It's using a Logic Studio piano, the vintage upright. We get this secondary piano over here. A little bit more moody. We're using piano processed the Lucid recollection. All right, then we have this sort of synthy type of sound. Same chord progression. For that, we're using the 80s wave bells found under the keyboards category. And then last but not least, we have this keyboard. And that's just using an instance of Logic's Retro Synth. We're using the Wavetable keyboard here found under the Synth keyboards category. And just some EQ for shaping. And all together. All right, so that is a new sample right there as well. We get this group chant, hey, right over here. And then carrying on to the next section, the chords of the keyboards do switch up. Same sounds, just different progression. That's the progression. Right, and that takes us pretty much to the outro, but first we get this little sound before the outro chords kick in. So for that sound over there, we're using Logic's vintage Mellotron instrument. We're just using the flute on the sound A. These are our settings on the vintage Mellotron, and just added in some reverb to put it into a space. And that carries us into the outro chords. So for the outro chords, we're just playing the two pianos. These are the chords of the piano. Nice smooth outro. And then all of the horns come to play at the end here to close out the track here. And that is Sticky by Tyler, the Creator, featuring Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne. Let's go ahead and listen to the session in its entirety. Sticky featuring Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne, remade in Logic Pro. For Logic Pro users out there, I'm going to go ahead and save this entire session for you. Place it as a downloadable link below this video. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm going to export all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and of course include the drum kit that you heard in this remake. You can find that entire playback down below the like button as well. If you do have any questions on this or just want to chat or have any suggestions for future videos, let's go chat down below. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Later. Peace.